back to a new segment. Today's topic will be the fall of Atlantis. This is, I'm sure, will be super interesting and valuable for many of you, especially those of you who are on the path, like we are, of learning about true history. So some people, I find, prefer not to go into the past because their reasoning is, well, we live in the present. What's the point knowing about the past? But if you know that the past are codes are memories and encryptions that form our DNA, and unless and until we can unlock the DNA and bring those memories out to surface, we can't really truly heal. So there is value in going back into ancestral, racial, galactic, and even cosmic past events, whether we like to or not, whether they're pleasant or not. That's because it's all part of our DNA. And right now we're in the process of remembering. Everything's coming back online. We are remembering, and we are seeing visions and flashbacks from the past. And so it's really valuable if we know what truly had occurred, because a lot of the versions online, a lot of the history in textbooks and so on and so forth, they don't give us a true account of what really happened. So from the perspective of the MCEO teachings, I will be bringing you some of that knowledge so that you can see if it resonates, and if not, you can leave it, no problem. Now, also want to say what brought about the downfall of many civilizations and the extinction of human race twice before does not have to be repeated. And so that is very important when it comes to learning our true history, because then we don't fall in those same snares, entrapments, and traps that we fell in before, which have caused the destruction and extinction of the human race twice before. So we are in the process right now of remembering. It can be a very beautiful process. We are in transmuting a lot of the ancient stuff, the energies. We're relearning. So that's what we're doing here. We're relearning. We're bringing that information out to help you remember those codes and remember who you are in those incarnations when you had when you were you, but in a different anatomy, a different version of you, but still you. So that's where the value is that it stays a part of ourselves until we can bring it out and integrate it with the present version of ourselves. So I will attempt to explain the history of what we call the fall of Atlantis and highlight important points that will definitely trigger the thinking process, deep thinking process, I should say, because it's really going into the past, into the ancient past. So yeah, at the moment we're physically stuck in, and energetically as well, we're phase locked. Like I said, energetically and physically. So I will talk about why this is, and I will talk about the role of Thoth or Thoth. I've heard his name being said Thoth and Thoth as well. So I prefer Thoth. Anyway, we're going to be bringing that today in the segment for you to help you make sense of everything and see if it resonates, then good. If it doesn't, leave it. That's all good. Okay, so let's begin. Atlantis. So unlike what we are told, human history is indeed very, very ancient, very, very old. In fact, human history on Earth extends back much, much more ancient than Sumerian and Egyptian cultures of historical records. We are told that we go back to ancient Egypt and there's no history before that, but that's not true. I will be explaining all that today, and then you can make up your own conclusions. So for thousands of years, legends, myths, and lore have existed in which realities of advanced pre-ancient human civilizations were viewed in terms of legitimate historical record. The legends of the sunken civilization of Atlantis are only the beginning of our reacquaintance with the past, or the pre-ancient history of the human race, since the final cataclysm of Atlantis, which is said to have been in 9,500 58 BC. There was great efforts since to implant disinformation and truly bury that knowledge of pre-ancient human civilizations by certain interdimensional visitor forces. Long before Atlantis, these teachings were actually common knowledge of once enlightened, joy-filled, peaceful, love-based global civilizations of the angelic human beings. So the fragmented remnants of these once unified founders, MCEO, spiritual science teachings, which have been historically edited and altered repeatedly to serve dogmatic control agendas, have literally provided the ancient foundations upon which all traditional world religions, evolving sciences, and New Age spirituality are built. And I'll be explaining this today. I'll be explaining New Age spirituality. I'll be explaining how that influenced and shaped world religions today. The Emerald Covenant teachings of the MCEO, which stands for Melchizedek Cloister Emerald Order, originally provided 950 billion years ago by the universal founders races from which our universal life field evolved, and the enduring legacy, divine birthright, and intrinsic heritage of all beings in this universe. It was for everybody. No one was left out. Presently, they serve also as the long-forgotten promise of love, of freedom, of unity, of peace, victory to many species on this planet. Is it possible that this forbidden part of history denied to us and wiped out of our memories? Is it possible it was that we were taught the fabricated, the twisted version of history at best? Not to mention most of it was hidden and kept hidden, which is why it's still called a myth, because it can't be proven if you do some research through Google and even textbooks, and you will find only few mentions of Atlantis. There's really no true profound knowledge of what truly had occurred. So I wonder what they were trying to hide from us. This is an example of what we are told actually in terms of true history. Okay, so I will give you a quick rundown of what we know to be quote unquote true history concerning a prominent historical figure many have come to worship, known as Thoth. So who is Thoth, according to what we are told and according to the versions of history we made believe as true? And I quote, Egypt is known to be the birthplace of all religions long ago, in a time far past, before the pyramid priests migrated and settled around the globe. The earliest records of Atlantis, known as the Emerald Tablets, were written by Thoth, who was an Atlantean priest king who founded the colony of Egypt after the sinking of the mother country, where he raised man to a high degree of civilization. He was later deified as the Egyptian god of wisdom and the god of writing, like his father before him, Enki. Okay, so if we look at this description, we can easily see how people are being misled to believe that Thoth is the emblem of wisdom. This lends to the fact that he truly had the knowledge. He truly had, in fact, he was an entrusted Emerald Guardian. He was represented and is represented by the head of an ibis, also called the god of the moon. Now, the ibis is associated with god Thoth, represents the lord of hidden knowledge and writing, and rules over the scribes. Thoth's statues were used as votive figures in burial grounds alongside ibis eggs. In this sense, the ibis is a sacred creature in the hieroglyphs and represent Thoth's attributes such as sagacity, communication, writing, understanding the mysteries, and controlling lunar energies. We're also told he was known to the Greeks as Hermes, Trismegismus, thrice born, and was the god Mercury known by the Romans. The tablets are emerald green, engraved by a process called alchemical transmutation, meaning the molecular structure is fixed with no molecular change ever taking place, which has really baffled scientific community because it defies the laws of ionization. They are resistant to all elements and they date back 36,900 years. The tablets were written in the ancient Atlantean language. They were also worn as talismans by the Atlantean priests, giving them authorization from Thoth to exercise authority over the less advanced priestcraft or the other priests. So the tablets are translated in the ancient religious text and are believed to be the foundations of the ancient mystery schools in which we believe to have a direct influence on all major religions. So this is what we are told is, we are told Thoth is, or Thoth, and it's definitely a confirmation that world religions were built on teachings of Thoth, all connect and go back to ancient Egypt, schools of mystery, and occult. Now, to delve a little deep into the teachings, I will highlight a few. It's not possible to highlight all of them because there's so many. Most of today's teachings are based on the teachings of Thoth, but I will just highlight the main ones that I believe have been influenced and affected the most by these teachings. So Thoth speaks briefly about the 7 chakras. If you don't know what a chakra is, it's a vortex of energy. So in the tablets, the emerald tablets, he speaks of the 7 chakras, which are the keys of life and death. The tablets are the keys of life and death. And he refers to those as 7 energy channels that must be balanced and maintained through the restoration of the poles within the body, which is achieved by meditation. Later, this information became occult mystery studies and part of the Vedanta teachings, and also proliferated greatly in parts of the world like Indus Valley, later becoming India. This does not mean by any way that the science of the 7 chakras is necessarily distorted. I aim to draw attention to the fact that it's a possibility that a lot of the teachings labeled sacred, unholy, are falsified by Thothian school because they've conveniently left out a big percentage of the authentic teachings, namely the remaining 8 morphogenetic chakras, in addition to those 7. So those 7 refer to the physical body, conveniently leaving out the 8 morphogenetic chakras that are just as important as the physical chakras. Not to mention, something a lot more sinister is the addition of the reversal mechanics, which we know now to be the Caduceus teachings. So you can look into the logo used within the health industry, and you can see it's in reference to health and, in medicine and pharmacy. It's got the 2 snakes that meet, the 2 heads that meet at the top that wrap around the body. So these Caduceus teachings actually feed the Caduceus network, which is a perversion of the natural energy that sustains and runs free energy on our planet, killing our planet by creating enough resources. So that's what they want to achieve, is create enough resources from this Caduceus network to reverse the energy fully so that it can pull the Earth into a black hole system by siphoning its valuable resources using the figure 8 configuration. I've spoken about figure 8 configuration, the poisonous apple, the Fibonacci, and many of those other things related to this network in other podcasts. I won't go deeply into it, but basically the net fields since the time of Atlantis have been running on a psychotronic warfare. We're constantly being bombarded by it and zapped by these frequencies. These nets is it's very sophisticated network of energy. They are used as technological weapons to create what we call hibernation zones, which are created by splitting the planes. So you've got energy planes, and it splits the planes, and one end of the plane ends up being reversed. So it's running in reversal. And what that creates is an invisible energy vampiring harvesting system. Examples of these are Shambhala and Olympus. So it's also connected to what we know to be Olympus cloud. This is the association I make because in the Greek mythos, the Olympus cloud is the celestial residence of the pantheon of gods and goddesses who run the world and the heavens, and the throne, the site of Zeus. So you can see a pattern being formed here. They create a problem, then they create an epic fantasy story to keep us charging their reversal system and network. No surprise, Zeus' statue is found in the Vatican Museum, and it's one of the most prominent symbols where Zeus, is holding the thunderbolt and is associated with the symbol of an eagle. What does that mean? Nothing happens by chance. Everything is premeditated. Everything's on purpose. Everything has a purpose. So if you dig deeper, you come to find that the eagle associated with Zeus is actually an APIN called the eagle, APIN, used by the fallen groups to take control of the Earth's grids, to basically reverse the Earth's grids. The golden eagle grid harnessed consciousness for so long through the entrapment of various levels of human spirit bodies. So there are many other APINs, not just the eagle. And by the way, APIN stands for Atlantean Pylon Interface Network. Basically, it's an artificial energy siphoning grid network that disrupts the natural energies of the planet by blocking the excitonal lines, which also run through our bodies. So when there's a network system out there that's blocked, it affects us directly. And then we start to run energy in reverse because we're connected to the APIN sites, we're connected to Stargates, we're connected to the Templar mechanics of the Earth. So the one has a shape of an eagle, another one, APIN, has a shape of a dove, and there are several others. So the thunderbolt symbolism is really electrical charge, because you see Zeus throwing an electrical charge using his thunderbolt. So that's a zappment. They're telling us that Zeus is a zappment, is zapping us with this artificial energy. They're not telling us it's artificial. We're not linking it because we don't know that they created it. And the proof is the Vatican's behind it. So they've got that statue of Zeus in the Roman Museum, in the Vatican Museum, and the symbology with him. That's, to me, that's like telling it as it is, if you can just read between the lines. Anyway, we'll just move on. So another manifestation of the false Thothian teachings is, and also I just want to state here, it's very important to know that it's not just like blaming one man for all the problems that we have. It's actually one man and a race behind him as well, and a man who actually came here in as many incarnations. So he was known as Hermes. He was possibly known as I can't remember his other incarnations, but he came into many, many incarnations, and he basically did the same thing in all of these incarnations. And there's a whole race behind Thoth as well that became the fallen race. So it's a collective, and it's all been associated with him. So the other manifestation of the false teachings also has to do with the sun and moon worship rituals. You see a lot of that in the New Age community. A lot of people are inviting those that are running meditations and moon rituals, sending those, are actually contributing to the reversals, just to put it simply. Another thing is breathwork techniques or static breathwork techniques, distorted Kundalini practices, Tantra spiritual practices that have been distorted as well. I will attempt to explain this and break it down in this video. Now, when the inner poles are imbalanced, what results is an inner pole shift. So the pole shift is not just an external event, it's linked to the internal process of shifting away from the medial line, from the still point, and deviating, and it causes an inner pole shift. So it's a gradual drifting away from the eternal life, basically. The Anunnakis and the Dracos proved that when they messed with the earth rods. They split them up and spin them opposite ways, turning the middle area between the two to a sinkhole. And this is what they have done on Earth, basically. So similarly, if our body, internal rod and staff become compromised, we become disconnected. The metaphor here is in relation to the sinkhole formation, which means we create a big void within us. We become completely disconnected. And that's really the cause point for a finite existence at best, if not a complete fragmentation and return to space dust. So they created those phantom holes the same way, although some parts of Amenti Earth actually remained in that natural configuration. Phoenix, or the Phoenix and the Falcon wormholes also are said to have created the Bermuda Triangle sinkhole. And you need to remember that these things don't just happen, like I said, externally. It affects us directly. It really causes a rift in time and takes us back to the time of Atlantis, where basically the history repeats itself. Okay, so back to the falsified teachings of Thoth on breathwork. I want to expand on breathwork. So instructions given by Thoth regarding breathwork actually feeds prana into the reversal system. Like I said, the Caduceus network, because it's primarily a circulation of energy using the torus field to suck energy into its own field to sustain it, instead of recycling back into source and creating one's own eternal supply of energy, meaning your DNA template becomes compromised. So allow me to explain a little bit more. When we run currents of energy in the right way, we are not recycling our own breath like taught in these Thothian teachings. The right way to do breathing techniques is in recycling of our energy through the 0 point, through the still point, or the space of the manu, the void, from which all of creation originates. Doing so enables and maintains what we call the Christ code encryption. So, like I said, it vibrates through the manu, and it goes through the mane anatomy and perpetually maintains an encryption with the mane and manu and through the ire. So feminine, masculine, and into the void, into the space of the 0 point, basically. All takes place simultaneously, all at the same time, the same place, and within the unmanifest manu, which is a void. This technique of breath work is called the lotus breath, and it's provided by the Freedom Teachings. This does not compromise the Christ code encryption. Now, of course, we weren't taught that. We were taught other breathwork techniques. For example, some like the Kapalabhati, the Bastrika, which really pushes your own energy back into your, and I say push, I mean the word push, literally, because it's a forcing of the breath to back and from, and a recycling of the same breath. So we're not using the void to pull new perpetual supply of energy. We're using the same breath. It's called a static breath. And another manifestation of Thothian's teachings is, in Hinduism, Kundalini is referred to as the coiled snake. Its pronunciation is a form of divine feminine energy or Shakti, believed to be located in the base of the spine, in the Muladhara, so it's the root chakra. It's a very important concept in the Shaiva Tantra, where it's believed to be a force of power associated with the divine feminine or the formless aspect of the goddess. So this energy in the body, when cultivated and awakened through tantric practices, it's believed to lead to spiritual liberation because Kundalini awakens, and that's all we know, is that when your Kundalini awakens, you've attained enlightenment, basically. So Kundalini is associated with like Adi Parashakti, which is the greatest of all divine and sacred energies. And so the term, along with the practices associated with it, became an integral part of Hatha Yoga in the 9th century. It has since been adopted in also many other forms of Hinduism, modern spirituality, and New Age teachings. So chakra in Sanskrit means circle or a wheel, and there are various points used in the variety of ancient meditation practices, collectively denominated as Tantra, or the esoteric path, or the inner traditions of Hinduism. The concept of the chakra arose in the early traditions of Hinduism. Beliefs differ between the Indian religions, with many Buddhist texts consistently mentioning 5 chakras, while Hindu sources, namely the Vedanta text, refer to 7. So early Sanskrit texts speak of them both as meditative visualizations combining flowers, mantras, as well as physical entities in the body. With Kundalini Yoga, the techniques of breathwork exercises, visualizations, mudras, bandhas, kriya, and mantras are focused on manipulating the flow of subtle energy through those chakras. So there's nadis, which are rivers or streams of energy that flow directly into the chakra, which then disperses the energy through the body. Now, from the perspective of the freedom teachings, also the Melchizedek Cloister Emerald Order teachings, that this depiction and these teachings are not the full picture. We are not given the full teachings. From the perspective of the freedom teachings, also the Melchizedek Cloister Emerald Order, these teachings don't represent the full picture at all. And at times, a very distasteful picture has been given of the true life force energy, congruent to the evolution of mankind. These teachings seem great on the surface, and many are drawn to them until one realizes and feels. To me, it was a feeling that the circulation of breath via the inhale and exhale, holding of the breath, is feeding a reversal network of energy currents anchored in the 55 Fibonacci Merkaba of death. So hear this out. We're meant to be cycling and recycling breath into the morphogenetic chakras, which go from 1 to 15 chakras, connected to the cosmos, to the universe, to the galactic spiral, to the universal spiral, to the solar spiral, to the personal energy body. We are multidimensional. A consciousness is not just limited to 7 chakras. When we're practicing breath work, connecting with the 7 chakras alone, we are doing what we call static breaths. We are not renewing each breath with a new life force. We're using the same breath over and over and over. The normal and simple breathing methods are harmless, like if you're just breathing deep into the belly. However, forced breaths that specifically stress the diaphragmatic projection of the breath in a downward spiral instead of a down and up, in my opinion, this is an opinion, causes harm because they're disconnected from morphogenetic chakras in the sense that create backflow rather than an upward spiral motion of energy currents aligned with the Christic spiral and the Merkaba of eternal life based on the 45-degree charge and 2 counter-rotating tetrahedrons. So it's not fueling your natural organic Merkaba, but the distorted death Merkaba based on the 55-degree charge. This is just a few examples from a massive pool of information we're being told is correct knowledge, mainly originating from the Thothian schools of thought and mystery, not to mention some of the schools that later emerged from the Thothian school of thought are the occult schools associated with figures like Aleister Crowley, the Fallen Melchizedek mystery schools, many New Age spirituality schools, tantric schools, Christian Kabbalistic schools, and many others. Now, to decipher quote unquote correct knowledge, we must look at the origin of where it comes from. Let's look at Thoth and who he was and his connection to ancient Atlantis now. Did he really betray the Emerald Covenant? We need to know this. We need to know why, and we need to know how he did it. I would name and explain the sequences of events leading up to the fall of Atlantis and the series of events that occurred post-Atlantis fall. Is history repeating itself now? And where are we now with all this? So about 60,000 years ago, the Ur-Antrians became infiltrated by certain neophyte human lines like the Anunnakis, the Draconians, the cloister human hybrid race from 150,000 years ago, and began using the knowledge of the planetary Templar complex from the 6 CDT plates to allow Syrian Anunnaki infiltration of Atlantis and planetary Templar complex. Now, CDT plates are real physical objects. They have been kept in private, protective custody by a specific family line of indigo children on Earth since the fall of Atlantis, basically from 9,558 BC. This family line is called the Ianis, who refer to themselves as the Melchizedek Cloister Emerald Order, priests of You are. Another branch of the Ianis call themselves MCEO priest of MU. The word priest originally means guardians or stewards and administration of spiritual wisdom. Both males and females in stewardship to spiritual wisdom and administering this wisdom to others are referred to as priests or ministers. The MCEO has always been and will always be an egalitarian, non-hierarchical, non-gender-based spiritual collective service. So in 50,000 BC, following the Atlantean destruction of the Lemurian continent in the fall of the Atlantean continent in 28,000 BC, 2 of the 6 CDT plates of Lemuria were in possession of the corrupted Atlantean priesthood. 4 of those CDT plates were secured by the Azorites. Now, Atlantean culture was we hear now that it was a highly technological civilization, and all that was true. But it was also rapidly being infiltrated by the Anunnaki forces and hybridization programs that really violated the Emerald Covenant and compromised the integrity of the human genetic evolution. So again, the Brenoir orders, the Azorites, the priest of and the races of the Emerald Covenant made attempts to reinstate the Emerald Covenant on Earth and in Atlantis. So what happened in 28,000 BC? What happened is Atlantean Holocaust. By the time the cycle of Atlantis, many smaller attacks on Earth had created damage that not only affected the planet, but by affecting the planet, affected all life forms on the planet. But these things could be healed through time and education of the people, of course. A being known to many, but during the Atlantean time cycle incarnated as an identity of Thoth. He was allowed to return truth to the people, truth about creation, how creation occurs, how the energetic system works, and how to heal the body, and how to be guardians of Earth planet and guardians of the Stargates, as well as the fact that Thoth was also source embodied. So they trusted him. The Guardians, the Emerald Guardians, trusted him. The people of Atlantis were forgetting these things because of the thousands of years of warring, and it really affected their gene codes. Now, Thoth carried his own gene code distortions as a result of the choices made during the time cycle. So, for many years, Thoth was speaking the truth of creation and teaching the people what they'd forgotten, and actually gained a very large following of people, even though he held a race-line connection with the fallen life forms. He desired to heal. He expressed that many times, that he desired to heal and return to balance with Source, which is why they kept allowing him back in the Emerald Covenant. After many years of teaching the people of Atlantis the truth of Source and creation, he was contacted by a fallen entity or fallen legions of life forms and made aware of their plans to attack planet Earth's Stargate system for complete consumption. He was told he could choose to work with their efforts and do as he was told, or he would be destroyed with the rest of Earth's population. Now, because of these distortions, Thoth held he was trying to heal within him. He could not allow himself to believe that Source alone would be able to save him and facilitate his continued survival. So he chose the option of working with the fallen legions and their plan of consuming Earth. Because the people who had been following the teachings of Thoth for many years, they trusted and believed that he was telling them the right thing. And he presented to them this information, the reversals, to begin the experience of healing. They didn't think for one moment that he didn't have their interests, it was in their best interests. So they believed him, they entrusted him. Therefore, they had no clue whatsoever that the technologies and the informations they received from Thoth and the teachings were actually reversing their DNA templates. So, in other words, they were all helping the fallen legions and their plans to attack Earth's Stargate system. The fallen legions could not open and access Earth's Stargate system as they did not hold the key genetics within them to allow them to do so. So they needed angelic life forms to do that for them. They used Thoth to get his followers to do just that, while all along these people thought they were helping to heal the planetary system, just as we're seeing now in the New Age movement. Thoth facilitated initiations to reverse matrix, what is called blue flaming sword of Archangel Michael, to gather and harness as many as possible in terms of consciousness amongst the unsuspecting ancient Egyptian tribe, in preparation for what would be a complete dominion, a complete takeover of Earth's gridworks, and almost a pole shift catastrophic event in 2012. And that had to occur in the 2017 stellar activation cycle, because that's when they can access the gene codes of the people and the planet, is when the stargates are open. So they began smaller attack of force breeding with angelic life forms to try and get those key codes back into their gene pool. And once the planetary Stargate 12 was opened, they began their attack by first eliminating the angelic life forms that held the key codes to Stargate 12, so these guardians do not close it, because when you get rid of the key, then no one can close it anymore. They started in Atlantis and in the surrounding areas. What is known today as Hawaii in the United States hold a very, very, very specific and powerful energetic gate connection to the inner core, the inner Earth system, and is actually called Q Site 12, All planetary stargates have a corresponding Q site, inner Earth gate connection with the planetary body. So you do as well, by the way, with your physical body. Many of the angelic life forms had fled to Q Site 12 location and were working with Christic races from inner Earth to try to hold the planetary stargate and get it to close. But they were not able to accomplish this because the fallen legions massacred them, killing every one of them. And so they were not able to assist the return to the inner Earth. Now, 25,500 BC, the Niburian Diodic Crystal Grid, NDC grid, photosonic standing wave crystalline technology, was put into the Earth's Templar, 25,500 BC, by the Marduk, Necromaton, Anunnaki, Andromedes hybrid races from Sirius A and the Alpha Centauris during an event called the Lucifer Rebellion, in which they seized control of planet Nibiru. Through the NDC grid, Earth was forced into a pole shift, and its orbit artificially misaligned with the reverse orbit of planet Nibiru via Niburian-controlled solar gate SG4, causing reversal of Earth's planetary harmonic Merkaba spiral. So the NDC grid program was amplified by the Galactic Federation and the Pleiadian-Niburian Council in 3470 BC, just recently, in an event known as Babylon Massacre. Tower of Babel story, basically, in the Bible. The Niburians have been waiting for the next stellar activation cycle, 2017, which is now, to complete their takeover of Earth by activating Stargate 11 on the checkerboard reverse matrix. Emerald Covenant races have been awaiting the stellar activation cycle so they could restore Earth's natural alignment and Merkaba spin to its original D12 Christos blueprint in order to release the Earth races from the Niburian imposed imprisonment. The NDC grid, the photosonic program, blocked and reversed the polarity in the number of Earth's exotonal lines and ley line grids, creating a checkerboard. So that's black and white checkerboard. So some frequencies were active, but they were blocked because of the mutations. That's why it's called checkerboard matrix. So Thoth, Enki, and Enlil collectives of Nibiru installed the program selenite staffs from the battle star and then placed them underground to hijack the planet's organic crystal caves and crystal temple forced reverse flow in the ley lines, in which the planetary reversal Merkaba system started to run on those checkerboard matrix mutations, with its main operational hub in Stonehenge, UK, connected to the Nibiru Tiamat Phantom Matrix. So the artificial global net system has a toxic byproduct and a natural ozone layer that creates various disruptions in the way photonic light enters layers of Earth's atmosphere. Now, when the cosmic mother's supermagnetism manifests and the NET or the nets fall, it will also shift and possibly deplete the ozone layer, after which the controlled media are likely to alert the public to a dangerous state of holes occurring in the ozone layers. And that's been happening the last 10 years or so. Science tells us that the ozone layers act as sunscreen against the sun's powerful ultraviolet rays. In fact, it's an artificially created interference layer for false magnetism combined with toxic chemtrails to deflect solar plasma codes that may activate dormant DNA, the humans. So as a planet is in its solar symbiosis ascension cycle right now, the controllers are becoming extra aggressive with all the things they do to the sun, creating a scary propaganda to control the masses. Therefore, The widespread publication of articles about depletion of the ozone layer in the media is mainly a psychological op controlling mainstream science to instill fear of the sun and sunlight in the masses. There's nothing to be afraid of when it comes to the sun. Light is a frequency of radiant energy that controls gene expression. This makes it clearer that the quantum of light is actually the universe's way of transmitting pockets of intelligent energy into the planetary species consciousness, dealing with the sun and creating scary propaganda to control the masses. Therefore, the widespread publication of articles in the media is a psychological operation, and we should try and avoid it and not listen to it. Now, the Temple of Agartha is a geographical location of crystals in the inner Earth, Eka planet of inner Earth, and it's guarded by the Iani priests. So the elder races, the Iani priests are the elder races, like I mentioned before, that seeded the human race. They communicate with these crystals to communicate information to us via codes. So crystals are a very powerful technology. If misused, can create disasters on a very big cosmic scale. So, and it is one of the reasons that Atlantis fell. The crystal caverns are gateways to the Earth's super consciousness field in the planet. In these caverns, we can directly speak to the Earth's most activated spiritual consciousness. They do not want grid keepers to have access to those caverns. Our body also contains numerous crystal seals. These seals were put by the guardians to protect us, or inserted in the grid work subsequently our bodies to prevent. So they were put by the guardians in order to protect us from like a frequency fence. But also some of them were put by the fallen legions to prevent our evolution and our ascension. Some separate the density bodies to protect it from molecular expansion, which happens when high frequencies hit lower base frequency bands, combusting the body, which a body that's not physically able, energetically capable of integrating the frequencies. These crystal seals, once they open and get access to the next density levels, we go up into a higher state of consciousness. Now, particular facets of the Nibiru Anunnaki decided that they could block the Earth's organic crystal grid matrix by using an artificial selenite rods and also installing crystal seals in the organic crystal matrix. So, yeah, the NDC grid carries its frequency program via 24 primary and many secondary Nibirian crystal temple complexes that exist beneath Earth's crust. The 24 primary Illuminati underground control bases are located at these sites. The checkerboard matrix has blocked the natural activation of our DNA codes and all of Earth species, by the way, not just humans. Every life form that is born into the Earth is affected and comes in here with those blocks and mutations. And these are very hidden in the Earth's body and are said to be cloaking forces to not actually be seen. They're also said to be subterranean, underwater in some locations. These affect the indigos and starseeds by placing little blue plugs and seals between them and the Earth's crystal body matrix, disconnecting from the Earth's inherent crystal frequency. It is said that some of these locations are in the Gulf of Aden, the Red Sea, the tip of Saudi Arabia, and the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. So the administrative level of Thoth's Luciferian agenda Illuminati were called the Paracletes of Atlantis. The Nibirian loyal Atlantean Illuminati, who therefore propagated one Luciferian-style rendition of the Templar Quest checkerboard matrix teachings. Even after Earth fell to nearly complete fall and angelic dominion in 500 BC, the angelic human grey lines, the Yanas, Ascended Masters, the Christos founders, and the Azurite Universal Templar Security Team, and many other Emerald Covenant Christos races in this time matrix have worked toward fulfillment of the planetary Christos realignment mission in order to set Earth and this time matrix free from all fallen angelic dominion and eventual destruction. But in 22,500 BCE, the hybrid Lyran, Siren, Orophim, Brenoa, and Melchizedek cloister race, called the Iani Council, now called the Indigo race, was seated on Earth in what remained of the Lemurian islands. The Ianis were intended to assist the Azarite priest of and humans in securing Earth's planetary Templar complex and regaining freedom from the digressive Anunnaki forces. Okay, now between 22,340 and 22,328, so in those 2 years, or 12 years, Thoth, and respected member of the priest of Melchizedek cloister priesthood, became torn over political race affiliations, and later he was commissioned to serve as an Emerald Covenant representative to bring back the CDT teachings. Actually, he sided with the infiltrating Density 2 Iberian Anunnaki races. He was commissioned to secure the 2 CDT plates held by the Atlantean priest caste and to bring the pure teachings back to Atlantean priesthood. The CDT teachings now were meant to be taught verbally and meant to be oral translations only to prevent corrupted portions of the Atlantean priest caste from using the CDT plate Templar knowledge to fulfill their one world order agenda. When Thoth defected from the Emerald Covenant, he betrayed the founders, translating the CDT plate 11 into a written text, distorting the Templar mechanics to Anunnaki creed and giving them the text to the corrupt Atlantean Anu Melchizedek priest caste to rally the support and to fulfill their one world order agenda. These texts become known as the Emerald Tablets of Thoth the Atlantean. Yeah. So Thoth used that planetary Templar mechanics of the CDT plates to assist the Niburians to take control of the Earth's grids, basically turned the 2 CDT plates over to the leaders of the anti-human Niburian Council of 9. As a result of Thoth's actions and those of other corrupt Atlantean temple priests, Palladian Niburian Anunnaki controlled forces agenda gained control over Earth's planetary Templar complex via the 4th dimensional solar Stargate. Under Niburian control, Earth was unable to commence its scheduled 22,326 BC stellar activation cycle and opening the halls of Amenti stargates, and further genetic mutation of the human genome ensued by Atlantean Anunnaki manipulation. Now, during this period of Atlantean history, the once pure freedom teachings of the CDT plates were intentionally distorted, and history of our time matrix was edited and convoluted to make Density 2 Anunnaki races appear as gods and creators of humanity. This is where we get the story of the Anunnaki gods. The sacred science teachings were held by the corrupted Atlantean priest caste and employed as a distorted spiritual dogma to control the masses, hence religion became a mass mind control dogma. In 22,325 to 22,326 BC, the Luciferian Anunnaki races, decimated guardian races, attempt to intervene in an event known as the Iani Massacre, which took place on the remnants of the Lemurian continent now known as Kauai, Hawaii. Ianis were the guardians of the primal light and sound field when trying to install the Lemurian Parlan Interface Network, which is the LPIN, which is it's the antidote to the APIN, so it cancels out the APIN also known as the four faces of man, in order to raise the frequency of Earth using the crystal technology. So they circumvented their efforts and they killed each and every one of them. The massacre plan was executed by Thoth's military. By eliminating the opposition, Thoth's Dark Priesthood Alliance could use the grids to install the checkerboard mutation technology, which he gave to the infiltrated Atlantean civilizations. Now, the Christos Iani realignment mission was to restore these grids and take back control over the crystalline technology and the Stargates. So the Sirius B Maharaji and the Antares Ultra Alliance created their own APIN system to combat the reversal infiltration and the Phantom 4 timeline from occurring, called the Blue Oxen Interface System. In 900 BC, they collapsed the permanent hydrosuspension fields of Loas, northeast of Atlantis, in the Loas Celtic Druidic freeze-out in an attempt to destroy the Magi, angelic human Grail kings in exile there. This event gave us our last major glacial period of 900 to 14,000 BC. So that's the Ice Age. Now, in 9558 BC, the Atlantean flood took place. The Luciferian Anunnaki and portions of the Galactic Federation orchestrated the Atlantean flood in an attempt to take over Giza, Egypt, Great Pyramid, the teleport station, and its true Ark of the Covenant, Andromeda portal passage, because there was a portal passage where we could travel through in order to go into Density 2 and travel through dimensions. Thoth Enki Anu Melchizedek Illuminati humans that took over Brewer Atlantis follow initiatives of the Samjazi Luciferian Anunnaki, otherwise known as the Lhasa Kings. They took over Loas, Atlantis, sending EM pulses from the Brewer generator crystals to Giza, causing that major flood via final collapse of the firmament hydrosuspension field over Noasa and Brewer Atlantis. Only portions of the Atlantean islands sunk. Major parts of Brewer, Noasa, and Loas Atlantis still remained above water. In 9558 BC, the Atlantean Anu races attempted to reinstate their global control from Atlantis by trying to control the Earth's Templar via the Ark of the Covenant portal bridge. So they didn't stop there. They kept on trying to regain all of control of all of the grids. So this resulted in the final sinking of the third Atlantean island, and a global cataclysm then became the Great Flood that you hear about in biblical stories. The Anunnaki races of the Luciferian Covenant orchestrated this Atlantean flood and the intentional rewriting of human history and the falsified emerald tablets since then. So Forbidden History reveals a long-term plot which the anti-Christian agendas of the Atlantean conspiracies emerged after the flood into the present day. The externalized, vengeful, patriarchal father god concept and the Noah and Abraham stories were all introduced by the control agenda Niburian Anunnaki, along with the further distortions of the CDT plate teachings, in an attempt to hijack Earth's human evolution into full Anunnaki hybridization to eventually gain full control over Earth's Templar complex. This set the beginnings of distorted teachings in the Hebrew, Judaism, and Christianity faiths, and Islam. The Niburian Anunnaki superimposed their own contrived history of human origins and the Jehovah God, and their bias against both the Emerald Covenant and Draconian hybrid races within their controlled human culture intensified the Anunnaki persecution of the matriarchal Earth spirituality religions that had re-emerged from the Lemurian descent tribal cultures of Inner Earth. So in 9540 BC, the Sirius B Maharaji Blue Human Emerald Covenant races they gave the rod and staff Stargate's tool in the Ark of the Covenant gold box to the Magi Grail King lines of Earth to keep open contact with the Inner Earth races via the Earth's portal system. Now, the Luciferian, Jehovian, and Draconian quest for possession of the Ark tools begins, as does the intentional falsification and eradication of the angelic human historical record to conceal the knowledge and location of Lower Stargate 11, the lands of which survived the Atlantean flood. Emerald Covenant races via the Pleiadian Council of Stargate 5, Elysion, had to instill a frequency fence to block Earth's Templar complex from being overexposed to interdimensional frequency resulting from that Atlantean cataclysm. This alteration to Earth's grid, initiated from the fifth dimensional time continua of density 2 Tara, created further malfunction and Stargate block in Earth's Templar complex and great repression in the human DNA template, locking Earth and human perceptual range into a single vector, three-dimensional earthly reality. So we're phase locked since the time of Atlantis in a three-dimensional reality field, basically. Things changed on January the 1st, 2000, because on January 1st, 2000, there was a reactivation of Earth's Templar complex, which means the Stargates opened, and there was an opportunity for a Bio-Regenesis of the original angelic human 12-strand DNA template. Okay, so in 8900 BC, the Lhasa King, the Sumerian invasion took place by the Illuminati races. So that in 400 years later, the Scarab King, the Egyptian invasion, took place, and in approximately 7500 BC, the Knights Templar invasion took place, in which the Luciferian Covenant Anunnaki races raided the Celtic and Druidic Magi Grail King races that returned to Lower Atlantis territories. In 13,000 BC, they came from the Caucasus Mountains from Russia. So the forced interbreeding then began between the Niburian, Thoth, Enki, Pleiadian, Niburian, Samjazi, Luciferian, and Omega, Alpha, Omega Centauri, Marduk, Necromaton, Luciferian, Anunnaki, Melchizedek, Illuminati, human lines, and the Magi Grail Kings for what? For an DNA upgrade of the Illuminati race. And this created the Luciferian super race, Knights, Templar, Sumerian, Lhasa King, and Egyptian, Osiris, Isis, Horus, Scarab King, and Egyptian, Hyksos King, and Indian, Santor King, Anu, Melchizedek, Anunnaki, plus Celtic, Druidic, Atlantean, Grail King forced interbreeding. So we're putting all these codex together, all these genetics together, and we're creating a superhuman race or a super Illuminati race. That's why they were the royals of ancient Egypt. They're not related to us, they're related to the Illuminati. They became the Freemasons, and they became the contemporary Freemason bloodlines today. Now, it didn't stop there. The infiltration continued well and through the 5900 BC approximately. There was a Centaurian war where the Luciferian Anunnaki races steal the Ark of the Covenant box and the Stargate tools because they wanted to cause a pole shift from Niburian Diotic crystal grid at Stonehenge, England, to claim Earth's territories. The Omicron Draconian, Alpha Centauri Luciferian centaurs, Marduk Anunnaki, and Jehovah Anunnaki races begin their counterattacks in England, in India, in Egypt, in Tibet, in Ionia, and North America. Now, when the Sirius B Maharaji, the Blue Human Guardians, intervened directly with air raids to prevent Draconian and Luciferian forces from claiming world dominion and prevent a pole shift, they were partly successful because the Magi Grail Kings retrieved the Ark box. And that's become the knowledge that was recorded in Sanskrit in the Mahabharata texts. The Mahabharata is a classical monumental odyssey. It is said to be the longest and most epic poems in the world, with over 100,000 verses divided into 12 volumes. Each volume is about 400 to 500 pages. So it tells a story of a dynasty struggle for the throne of the ancient Indian kingdom of Hastinapur between the Pandavas and the Kauravas, two branches of the same royal family. Basically, it is said it's not just a story that contains philosophical and spiritual teachings, but also a conversation that took place between Arjuna and his charioteer Krishna, in which Krishna expounds on the nature of reality, the soul, and the ultimate goal of human life. Now, the Mahabharata includes many supernatural elements, it includes gods, includes demons and magical weapons. One of the most famous of these is the Brahmastra, a weapon so powerful, it says, that it can destroy entire enemies and even the world. It's mentioned in the Mahabharata, which are teachings directly from the CDT plates. Now, what's interesting and why I'm bringing this up is because the Mahabharata tells us about a weapon, and I quote, so powerful can destroy entire armies and even the world. I wonder if that's a direct reference to the beast system, the ark, the staff, the rods, the Niburian diotic crystal grids. It speaks of we're talking back 5,900 BC. There was no known weapons back then, yet the Mahabharata mentions a weapon so powerful that can destroy the entire cosmos. Okay, so I personally think that it's in reference to the beast system, blank state technology. Okay, not to mention the volume 1 of the Mahabharata alone mentions wicked 85 times. So that's speaking of the wicked, which are the destroyers of the planet. Perhaps they're referring to the wickedness of those who came before and the people who sunk Atlantis. Perhaps it alludes to an invisible power that could be harnessed when energy is misused, hence the selenite crystals, hence the use of the word weapon, perhaps literally, not literally a weapon, but a defection from eternal life. It's aggregate responsibility for taking down the whole world and the galaxies all at once. One of the famous quotes from the Mahabharata, for instance, and I quote, the intoxication with power is worse than drunkenness with liquor and such, for who is drunk with power does not come to his senses before he falls, unquote. That's directly from the Mahabharata. So that's telling us something. Now, as the Illuminati Atlantean Templar conquest progressed on lower Earth, various factions of the Illuminati elder races and their earthbound children engaged competing Templar dominion agendas that resulted in grid wars, each competing Illuminati elder group intending to control lower Earth's Amenti Stargates, which, by the way, are fallen right now. I think Ash mentions in from 2003. And thus creating the intergalactic Toro Rift time rip that was their plan. So from 2012, it was going to be an appointment with Illuminati destiny. Now, magnetic fields have a whole lot to do with the function of human consciousness and memory connected to DNA. Battles with fallen angelic ET intruder races messed up the planetary grids, as you know. These intruder races created the scalar sonic pulse, SSP, to run through our planetary grids with its own distorted artificial magnetic pulse, destroying the race memory. This is why our memories are destroyed. Like, we have no knowledge. We have to really try hard just for a little piece of information. And even that, we can't be sure that it's a memory or if it's just a vision or it's coming from the net field, So that's why we're so disconnected from an ancient history, because of the memory loss, a blank memory loss of the whole entire race using SSP, scalar sonic pulse. Thanks to the modern education that overrid all of ancient text, helping further erase what's left in our memories. In fact, up to 99% of our original capacity to retrieve information and memories has been wiped. What we retrieve now is merely what's left of images and flashbacks from that appear in dream states, in visions, and only through DNA activations. Many of us are beginning to activate new DNA strands and getting snippets of visions of their souls actually and other incarnations, even in the time of Atlantis, even prior to that. Now, the Zeta tech began subspace sonic pulse. It's originally used to detect earthquakes, which cannot be detected by just a normal person. So they're using this to progressively manipulate the electromagnetic field of Earth and really its anti-life. Due to this technology, population reduction, invasion plans would officially begin. The modern day spiritual war looks like 5G, microwave radiation, SSP, chemtrails. There's a reason behind these harmful biotechnologies. Basically, they do not want the human race. They want to control stargates. They want to take dominion of all the Earth grids. Now, the technology that Thoth's army used digressed the human genome considerably and wiped out memories of how to use the stargates. So we come back and we don't know how to use the stargates, which is called Templar mechanics, thus keeping us trapped in this time period, in this time and space, feeding Anunnaki and Draconian, loose siphoning farms in preparation for the Phantom Fall or the Wizardic Fall. Now, Thoth and his army use Jehovian seals as well, with their 7 seals in axiotonal lines, and many other things. There's too many to name. Luckily, we have the techniques to remove them. Now, if there is a large magnetic disruption, it affects the memory. That's how it works. The negatives are carrying out a war, a spiritual war, in fact, against the human race, utilizing the SSP technology since the Atlantean period. This is not new. The objective is they do not want the human race because of our 12D, 12-dimensional potential. It's not good for them. It's not good for taking over the Earth. They were after humans because humans were created by the founder races and had a complete 12 DNA genetic imprint and were appointed to serve as guardians, as planetary guardians, so that the planet wouldn't be taken over, but they ended up wiping us out in the Yanni massacre and then wiping us memories and, hitting us with all these frequencies and everything, genetically mutating our DNA. So there's little left in terms of power to fight back. So the only way to fight back is to activate our 12 DNA strands again. They do not clearly care for Earth. They merely care that through Earth they can pass through portals, because Earth is a very strategic place that actually has its portals connected to the Amenti stargates, which is connected to the universal stargate. So it extends through the whole universe. The whole and by controlling the Earth stargates, they can take control of the entire 15-dimensional system. This is what they want. They had in mind that humans and Earth are in their way and they don't need to be here. They created religion to control, New Age agendas to confuse. They made the masses believe in externalized and more powerful gods and more powerful ETs. And followers must bow down to them and follow their orders in order to attain salvation. This is part of the reason why the channeling movement started as well. It's so that they could infiltrate and use us to host their consciousness. Why do you think they're trying to eradicate whales and dolphins? Again, the Orifeme, Cetacean types hold a very high frequency, and they're pure white-skinned, light blue whales, and they specialize in transmitting sounds that hold the scalar wave templates for universal structure. So it's the undoing of the SSP sonic frequencies, distorted frequencies that they use. These frequencies of the dolphins and whales, and not all dolphins and all whales, by the way. Some are actually in the fallen groups. But primarily they are the Orifeme Cetaceans, and they actually lift and harmonize the field, energy field. So in other words, they could undo the mess created and by the SSP and the distorted sound frequencies. Now moving forward, what is the solution? The solution of the current dilemma of the human evolution is not to focus on extensively on deciphering the common bed of falsehoods that permeates the mass worldviews, but to return to focus on identifying the common seeds of truth through which the falsehoods can be overcome. We're peeling away the layers and we get to the gem, the truth. And it's all from within. When we start to activate, we're very, very close to the full truth. It is for this purpose that the Galactic Alliance, MCEO, and Crystal River Adashi adepts are currently returning to the human public. They're returning the CDT plate teachings that have been for so long denied. Through these teachings, humanity is offered the opportunity to come to know and remember itself. And in knowing thyself, humanity can find the truth through which it can set us free, especially after the 2012 appointment with Illuminati Destiny failed. They could not cause a pole shift. They still have dominion over Earth's grids, most of them, but the pole shift 2012 did not happen. And it is because of this inherent promise of potential freedom that the contemporary MCEO CDT plate remote translations are referred to as the MCEO freedom teachings. That's why they're called freedom teachings. MCEO vision is not that of a one world doctrine. That's only the intention of the Illuminati groups within the greater agenda of the one world government or the one world global Templar dominion. The MCEO teachings rather promote the vision of unity through complementary diversity. Main solution is to bring Earth and human DNA template back through the Kathara Bio-Regenesis and the flame body activation techniques that we've been given. People like us who remember who they are came here for a purpose. Indigos came here for a purpose. We are here to help each other to remember who we are, to do something about it, and that's to go back home and help the grids of Earth, help sustain the energy, help to fix the distortions. Focusing only on the problem does not help entirely. So now that we know the problem, we know the solution, not to keep focusing on the problem, but to eventually come to an understanding so that history doesn't repeat itself. Our memories are fast returning as the seals begin to open. So we're able to now assimilate a much greater frequencies, and that's a huge deal. Big, big deal. We're being beamed with that high aurora level frequency from the Aequion matrix that has not digressed. which means they still have access to the 12-dimensional frequency and beyond. Further, our seals and blocks are getting beamed. And depending on the type of location site of the blocks caused by implants and inserts in the body, pain is being triggered. So sometimes the process is uncomfortable. We're getting pains, triggers, inflammations, things like that. Many people are experiencing pain due to where the blockage in the body is. The high frequency is triggering the pain as well as other distorted frequencies. So sometimes you have to go back to yourself and sit with it and think whether it's an implant, a possible distortion, a block, or if it's a high frequency that you're trying to integrate. So resting, taking ample time, drinking water, staying hydrated, eating healthy, fresh, organic, taking regular breaks from the radiation, going out in nature, these all help in, these all assist in the DNA bio-regenesis. You must clear yourself from implants and blocks and inserts. J-Seal technique removes those inserts. It's on our YouTube channel if you're interested. Running D12 frequency regularly is another one. Keep up the work, because not working on the self is going to trigger unknown pains and wounds that cannot be resolved using external healing techniques. Now, the ability to run the flame body and bioregenerate our Unisay Godseed Codex while incarnate on Earth with mutated DNA is somewhat difficult, but it's not an impossible task. We're all doing it, and we're starting to feel the effect. And there is a success and there is value in being patient and working with the body and not rushing things. And I know time is not an advantage that we have, but neither is it advantageous to push through it, because pushing through it is overloading your body. You can go into fatigue and tiredness, and it just locks your body down into the state of that state for a very long time. So just work with it slowly, listen to your body. Because due to the degree of interdimensional interference and escalation, the Christos Realignment Mission and the Bridge Zone projects resulted in lower collective consciousness DNA template activation and alien manipulation. So the ability to clear out shadow body became exponentially harder at the moment, and the ability to completely express acoustic encryption became somewhat dangerous due to the real-time interdimensional alien interference and 3D incarnate shapeshifters. So the Crystal River was therefore anchored in 2007 due to extreme FA, fallen angelic, gender escalation upsteps, and reconnection to the 45 billion year old cooperative between our universe in Andromeda. Lucky we have time waves currently running the Aurora platforms, through Aurora platforms that have remained free from those reversals and nets. So these are energizing our bodies at the moment, and those anchored in the Christic spiral and have the Merkaba fields activated are really, getting the most benefit. So one must take responsibility to awaken to their true self and take steps for genetic restoration, restructuring the inner grid works of consciousness, DNA Kathara template, etc., not to partake in the reversal mechanics. So example of those reversal mechanics, it's like Metatronic technology, New Age teachings like channeling, astral tagging technology, moon rituals, equinox and solstice cycles, because they're based on artificial timeline and poison apple configuration, portals based on the Greek zodiac as well, and astrological information based on the false timeline. And then we have an entire array of sounds that are beamed that affect the brainwave patterns, and those who involve themselves in hearing those sounds, they reverse the DNA again. That's what they want. These ETs, the fallen ETs, they want you to be exposed to those sounds and those, really distorted sounds that are not natural. These are psyops. There's also false movements, especially the Galactic Federation, channeling movements, the Q movement, alien agendas, things like that. Not to mention, of course, religion, mind control technologies. There's new technologies that they claim they can heal the body. They're healing the Metatronic body, but they're giving you a finite life as well, because they're zapping a lot of that life, eternal life force out of the body. That's not to mention you could be hosting one of their people in your body as well, if you open your fields to allow for that kind of infiltration. So yeah, there's a lot of mind control technology, electromagnetic disturbances, etc. Don't participate in bipolar events either, with and against, because that's always going to be there, and it's to keep us divided. We're still learning, we're still remembering, and we make mistakes. The key thing is to keep your mind open, keep your heart open when you need to open your heart for forgiveness, for unconditional love, and not to hold resentment and grudges against others, because you always think of it this way. They can only possibly know what is in accordance to their level of consciousness. You can't possibly stretch their mind if they're not ready to stretch their minds. That's all they know for their where they are in their own evolution. So we can't blame them for that. We can't really hate on anyone, and it's not good for us personally to do that. So keep the mind open and keep the heart open when you need to. The key thing is learn by example of people who have done that, been there, done that, not to be fixated on, I know best and that sort of thing, because it can keep us from evolving. So have an open mind, think about things, and go into your own self and own soul and see if it, if it's improving you, if it's helping you evolve in some way. If not, you can leave it. So we're all here to heal, we're here to evolve and find our way back to source. We're multidimensional, and we're more than just a dense physical body. And so the process of healing begins by remembering who we are on a daily basis, because we need to go back to the past only to bring back those past wounds and pains and traumas, to integrate them and transmute them piece by piece, little bit at a time. So that's it for today. I'll leave you with this information. We're bordering on 1 hour and a half. So thank you for sticking to the end, being here with us on this journey. And thank you to everyone who's been donating to our channel and helping us grow and evolve and reach more people out there. We're getting a lot of positive reviews that it's been really helpful for a lot of people, for their awakening and activations and everything. So stay in touch, stay connected, and we'll see you next time. Much love.